These people didn't just eat strange things, they broke every rule of biology. You won't believe what's inside their stomachs. Some people push limits in sports, others in science. Michel Lotito? He pushed the limits of biology. This Frenchman became famous around the world for doing something no one had ever tried before. He ate an entire airplane. Yes, a real Cessna 150. Not a model, not a cake shaped like a plane. A full metal aircraft, piece by piece, over 2 years. Michel wasn't doing it as a stunt. This was his lifestyle. Since childhood, he had a strange craving for things most of us wouldn't even put near our mouths. Glass, rubber, metal, plastic, gravel. He didn't just chew them, he actually swallowed and digested them. Lotito had a condition known as pica, where people eat non-food objects. But in his case, it went to a whole new level. His stomach was different. Doctors studied him and found that the lining of his digestive system was twice as thick as normal. He also had unusually strong stomach acids, capable of breaking down materials that would damage most people instantly. While anyone else would end up in the emergency room after one shard of glass, Lotito could wash down razor blades with mineral oil and feel fine the next day. He started performing in front of crowds in the 1960s. Audiences watched in disbelief as he munched on shopping carts, chandeliers, bicycles. Then came the ultimate challenge, the airplane. He bought it, disassembled it into thousands of pieces, and over 24 months ate every part. The wings, the engine, the seats, even the windows. The only parts he avoided were soft. He said bananas and hard-boiled eggs made him sick. He preferred metal. What's even stranger, he never suffered any serious health problems from it. Doctors monitored him, ran tests, and couldn't find the usual injuries you'd expect from swallowing sharp or toxic objects. No internal bleeding, no poisoning. It's like his body rewrote the rules. Lotito didn't just stop at the plane. Over his lifetime, he ate 18 bicycles, 15 supermarket carts, 7 televisions, and a pair of skis. He even tackled a coffin, complete with handles. He always prepared the items the same way, cut them into small pieces and drank plenty of mineral oil. No ketchup, no spices. Just steel, glass, and aluminum. Despite his bizarre diet, he lived an active life and didn't rely on medical care. He gave interviews, performed live around the world, and remained in high spirits. Some compared him to a real-life superhero with an indestructible gut, like something out of an X-Men comic. Others simply called him Monsieur Mange-Tout, Mr. Eat Everything. He eventually earned a place in the Guinness World Records for the strangest diet ever. And that's not just a title, they actually verified it by watching him eat parts of a bicycle during the judging process. To this day, no one has come close to breaking his record, not even the most daring performers or internet daredevils. There are people who bend spoons, and then there's Michel Lotito, who ate them for breakfast. His story isn't just about strange cravings, it's about how the human body, under the rarest of conditions, can adapt to do things we thought were impossible. If Lotito could digest an airplane, who knows what boundaries are still left to break. Tarare wasn't just hungry, he was always starving. Born in 18th century France, he had an appetite so intense, it couldn't be explained by science at the time. As a teenager, he could eat his own body weight in meat within 24 hours. And yet he stayed painfully thin. Local markets couldn't keep up. He devoured baskets of apples, whole eels, and once, according to historical accounts, an entire live snake. Doctors tried to understand him. He was brought to hospitals and tested under supervision. In one challenge, he consumed a full lunch made for 15 adult men, including meat, vegetables, and gallons of milk. Afterward, he acted as if he was still ready for dessert. What set Tarare apart wasn't just the volume, it was the extreme nature of what he consumed. Reports say he ate corks, stones, and even surgical instruments. His jaws could stretch unnaturally wide, and he produced excessive saliva. Medical experts now suspect he may have suffered from a rare combination of hyperthyroidism and a neurological condition that affected his appetite regulation. He became a sideshow performer, earning money by astonishing crowds. But the curiosity quickly turned into a mystery. No matter how much he ate, he never felt full. Modern science still struggles to explain him. Tarare remains one of the strangest medical puzzles in history, a man who could out-eat anyone yet never gain a pound. In a quiet town in the UK, a woman shocked doctors not by what she refused to eat, but what she craved. She didn't want sweets, fast food, or spicy snacks. What she really wanted was her own house. Chalk, plasterboard, paint chips, nothing in the walls was safe. She had developed a form of pica so extreme she literally consumed her surroundings. She started with small bites of chalk, then moved on to scraping paint off the walls. It wasn't about flavor, it was the texture, the crunch, the strange satisfaction. Over time, she estimated she had eaten entire sections of her bedroom, including the plaster between the wooden beams. Her family thought she was redecorating. She was, in a way. Doctors diagnosed her with a behavioral version of pica, often linked to iron deficiency or anxiety. But her case was unique because it became part of her daily routine. Morning tea and drywall, evening TV and a handful of paint flakes. It wasn't about hunger, it was compulsion. She received treatment after going public with her story on television, where experts guided her through nutrition therapy and psychological support. Today, she's doing much better, but her story remains one of the most surreal examples of how powerful and strange the brain can be, especially when it decides the walls are part of the menu. At first, doctors thought it was a mistake. The X-ray looked like something out of a cartoon, dozens of spoons overlapping each other inside a man's abdomen. But this was no joke. A patient in India had checked into the hospital complaining of discomfort. When surgeons opened him up, they discovered over 30 spoons and forks carefully stacked inside his stomach, like cutlery in a drawer. The man hadn't done this overnight. He admitted to swallowing metal utensils one by one over several months. The reason? He said he simply liked the sensation. There was no attempt to seek attention or perform. This was personal. Surgeons removed the utensils during a long, careful operation and were stunned to find very little internal damage. His stomach had somehow adapted. This case was documented by medical journals and quickly spread online. The X-rays became iconic, shocking yet oddly mesmerizing. They showed how something completely unnatural can still happen without instant consequences. That's what makes it so surreal. No poisoning, no bleeding, just a stomach full of steel. Doctors later explained that while the man didn't show outward signs of distress, this kind of behavior is often linked to psychiatric conditions like pica or obsessive-compulsive tendencies. What made this story unique was the sheer number and the shape of the objects. Spoons are not small. Forks are sharp, yet his body tolerated them. Even now, surgeons across the world cite this case during training. Not because of how dangerous it was, but because of how unbelievably real it turned out to be. It's not every day that a routine checkup turns into a metal removal operation worthy of its own X-ray gallery. Most people avoid stepping on a nail. Hervé Linger spent 3 decades swallowing them on purpose. Almost no one outside France knew his name, until doctors discovered his body had quietly processed pounds of hardware over the years. Nails, screws, bolts, bits of wire. This wasn't a magic trick or performance. For him, it was lunch. Linger didn't do it for fame. He never toured with a circus or appeared on television. His story only came to light after he sought medical help for discomfort. That's when an X-ray exposed the impossible, nearly 2 pounds of sharp metal inside his body. He had been eating small metal objects for years in secret. Nails during breakfast, a few screws while reading. He described it as a habit he couldn't quite shake. Doctors couldn't believe it. Not only had he survived, but his body had adapted. His stomach lining had grown unusually thick, a defense mechanism against sharp edges. Like Michel Lotito, his digestive system seemed to work on a completely different setting. There was no sign of internal bleeding, and most of the metal had been smoothed down by acid over time. He told physicians that it gave him a strange sense of calm. The crunch of metal, the weight of it, the ritual. Experts diagnosed him with a form of pica driven by psychological repetition, a habit that slowly became part of his identity. It didn't start all at once, it grew over years like collecting objects, except he collected them in his stomach. Linger's story remains one of the rarest ever recorded. Not because someone ate nails, that's shocking enough, but because he managed to do it for 30 years quietly without the world even noticing. Not every headline-grabbing case starts with a spotlight. Sometimes it begins in silence, with a man and a handful of steel. It started with a craving for the scent. Then it became about the texture. Before long, she was going through bars of soap and kitchen sponges every single week. A pregnant woman in the UK stunned doctors when she admitted that she had been secretly eating household cleaning products not because of stress or boredom, but because she couldn't resist them. Her condition is known as pica, where people crave and consume non-food items. For her, it began during the early months of pregnancy. The smell of lavender-scented soap, the softness of sponges, it wasn't just comforting, it became irresistible. She described the taste as oddly satisfying and said she felt calmer after eating it, like it was part of her daily routine. Family members were shocked when they found out. She had been hiding it for months, worried people wouldn't understand. When she finally spoke to doctors, they ran tests and confirmed she was low in certain minerals, including iron, a deficiency often linked to these types of cravings. Fortunately, the baby was healthy, and she received care that helped her stop the habit safely. This wasn't a one-off case. Many women with pica report cravings for chalk, clay, even laundry starch. But soap and sponges are especially dangerous because they can block digestion and interfere with nutrient absorption. The woman later appeared on television to share her experience and raise awareness. Her story reminds us how strange the human body can behave, especially during pregnancy. A craving isn't always about chocolate or pickles. Sometimes it's about soap in your handbag and a sponge on your nightstand. She was 17, quiet, and always brushing her long hair. No one suspected anything until stomach pains became unbearable. At the hospital, doctors ran a scan. What they found was almost unbelievable. A 3-foot-long hairball tangled inside her stomach, blocking everything. It had formed slowly over months or even years. She had been eating her own hair in secret. The condition is called Rapunzel syndrome, and it's as rare as it is dramatic. It happens when someone with trichophagia, a compulsion to chew and swallow hair, keeps doing it over time. Hair doesn't digest, so it builds up, twisting into a dense, knotted mass that can stretch through the stomach and into the intestines. The teen had never told anyone. For her, it started as a nervous habit. She'd twirl her hair, pull on strands, and then chew them while studying or watching TV. At first, it didn't seem serious, but slowly her body began to react. Digestive issues, weight loss, and eventually pain so severe she had to go to the ER. Surgeons removed the massive hairball, and after a successful recovery, she was given therapy to help stop the behavior. Doctors say catching it early is key, since hair can damage the stomach lining or cause dangerous blockages if left untreated. Her case made headlines around the world, not because it was grotesque, but because it was real, and surprisingly common among teens dealing with stress or anxiety. Rapunzel syndrome isn't a fairy tale. It's a quiet habit that can turn into a life-threatening condition before anyone notices. Crunch, crunch, crunch. For some, it's a harmless habit, chewing ice at the end of a drink. For others, it turns into an obsession that takes over their day. This is pagophagia, a condition where people feel the constant need to eat ice, not for refreshment, but because something deeper is driving it. One woman shared that she couldn't get through the morning without chewing through a full tray. Then she'd carry cups of ice with her throughout the day, crunching instead of snacking. At night, it was her version of dessert. It wasn't about being thirsty. It was a craving. And she wasn't alone. Doctors now know that pagophagia is often linked to iron deficiency or anemia. When the body lacks certain nutrients, it sends strange signals. In this case, the need to chew ice can feel urgent and satisfying. It becomes part of a routine, even a form of self-soothing. Some describe it as calming, others say it gives them energy, but constant ice chewing isn't as harmless as it seems. Over time, it can damage teeth, wear down enamel, and even cause jaw pain. In extreme cases, people have gone through pounds of ice a day, leading to cold sensitivity and digestive discomfort. The good news is that once the underlying issue is treated, like correcting iron levels, the cravings often stop. Many don't realize what's really going on until a doctor connects the dots. Pagophagia isn't just about frozen water. It's the body sending a message in the strangest way possible. Behind every crunch might be a deficiency waiting to be solved, and once it is, the ice suddenly loses its grip. When surgeons reviewed the X-ray, they thought the machine was broken. Inside one man's stomach was something they'd never seen, a pile of coins stacked so tightly they formed a solid block of metal. This man from India had swallowed 187 coins of different sizes over time, not by accident, on purpose. It wasn't a magic act or a bet. According to his family, he had been secretly swallowing coins for months. By the time they realized what was happening, he was feeling sick, weak, and couldn't eat regular food anymore. Doctors at the hospital were stunned. The operation took hours. One by one, they removed every single coin, rupees, old tokens, and even foreign currency. What shocked everyone wasn't just the number of coins, but how well his body had tolerated them until the last few days. Some had started rusting. Others were pressed together by the pressure of his stomach. He had swallowed metal worth more than a decent restaurant dinner, but it nearly cost him his life. Medical experts believe his case is linked to a psychiatric condition that caused him to feel relief through swallowing solid, cold objects. It wasn't hunger, it was compulsion. Fortunately, after the surgery, he received proper treatment and support. Today, his story is used in hospitals to remind doctors and students just how far the human body can stretch its limits. A stomach is designed for food, but sometimes it ends up storing a small fortune in metal instead. One moment he was playing. The next, he was unusually quiet. That's when his parents knew something was wrong. A toddler in the United States had swallowed something, but they didn't realize what until doctors ran a scan. What they found was terrifying. 40 small magnets clustered and scattered throughout his digestive system. The magnets weren't toys, they were part of a desk gadget meant for adults. Bright, shiny, and easy to swallow, the pieces had passed from his mouth to his stomach in minutes. What made this case so serious is that when magnets attract inside the body, they can pinch and tear internal organs. Doctors say it's one of the most dangerous things a child can swallow. A surgical team rushed into action. Using precision techniques, they worked to remove the magnets without damaging the surrounding tissue. It wasn't easy. Some had connected across loops of intestine, creating pressure points. But the medical team succeeded, and the toddler recovered fully. Now, this case is studied by pediatric specialists worldwide, not just for its rarity, but for how quickly things can escalate. It also led to renewed calls for warning labels on small magnetic toys and desk items. The child is now healthy and doing great, but his X-ray still circulates among doctors as a powerful image, a glowing cluster of dots, each one a reminder of how curiosity and danger sometimes cross paths, even when you're only 3 feet tall. Most people avoid anything they find on the road. Fergus Drennan, a man from the UK, made it part of his grocery list. Known as Fergus the Forager, he spent years living off the land and off the road by eating only what nature or cars provided. His meals included squirrels, pheasants, rabbits, and even badgers, animals that had been hit, but were still fresh enough to consume safely. He wasn't doing it for shock value. Fergus believed that eating roadkill was more ethical than buying factory-farmed meat. For him, no animal was killed on purpose. If it was already gone, he reasoned, why let it go to waste? He taught himself how to check freshness, how to gut and prepare each animal, and how to cook or even eat some of it raw. He became somewhat of a legend in ethical food circles. Documentaries featured him gathering herbs from hedgerows, mushrooms from forests, and meat from quiet roadsides. His diet shocked people at first, but when he explained it, many found it hard to argue. It was local, sustainable, and completely free. Fergus didn't just live on roadkill for a weekend or a month. He made it his main lifestyle for years. No packaged food, no waste. Just what the land, and the occasional passing vehicle, left behind. He kept detailed records, shared recipes, and even ran workshops to teach others how to forage responsibly. He sparked debates across the internet and was featured in newspapers, on podcasts, and even in environmental studies. In a world full of plastic-wrapped meat and food miles, Fergus went the opposite direction. His diet may not be for everyone, but it raised a simple question. If you're going to eat meat, should you know where it comes from? Even if that place is the side of the road? She didn't crave sugar or fast food, she craved toilet paper. A woman from the United States stunned doctors when she revealed that she had been eating up to 14 rolls of toilet paper every week. Not out of desperation, but because she liked the texture, the softness, and the way it dissolved in her mouth. For her, it was comfort food, literally. This wasn't a one-time thing, it had become a full habit. She kept rolls in her purse, beside her bed, even in the car. She described the feeling as calming and familiar, like chewing gum but quieter and softer. When asked why she didn't stop, she said, "It just feels right." And that's what made the story so strange. It wasn't about attention or shock, it was personal. Doctors diagnosed her with pica, a condition where people crave non-food items. In many cases, it's connected to nutritional deficiencies or stress-related behaviors. Her tests showed she was low in iron, which can sometimes trigger unusual cravings like ice, chalk, or in rare cases, paper. Once they addressed her iron levels and gave her therapy, the cravings started to fade. The story became widely known after she shared it on a TV show, hoping others with similar urges would feel less alone. It sparked conversations online, with some people admitting they'd eaten tissue or paper in secret, but were too embarrassed to tell anyone. Her experience is a reminder that not all addictions are loud or obvious. Sometimes they come wrapped in soft white squares and go unnoticed for years, but when brought into the open, they can finally be understood and managed. In the remote hills of India, a man named Prahlad Jani lived in silence, prayer, and mystery. For decades, he claimed something that defied every law of biology. He didn't need to eat or drink, not a single bite, not a drop of water. His story became the subject of global fascination, spiritual debate, and medical investigation. Johnny said he had received a divine blessing as a child that allowed him to survive without food or fluids. Most would have dismissed this as folklore until doctors stepped in. He was brought to a hospital under strict observation. Locked in a monitored room with cameras, doctors watched him day and night for over 2 weeks. No food, no water, no bathroom. Still, his body remained stable. What baffled the medical team was that his vital signs showed no signs of dehydration or starvation. No significant weight loss, no organ stress, nothing to indicate his body was failing. Scientists tested his blood, monitored his brain, even checked for hidden food. But there was none. After the study ended, Jani simply walked out, calm and unchanged. Skeptics argued there had to be an explanation, something missed, something hidden, but none could be proven. Supporters pointed to ancient practices of yogic control, where the body adapts far beyond what science currently understands. Jani's lifestyle was quiet and disciplined. He meditated for hours, stayed isolated, and followed a spiritual routine that rarely changed. He never asked for fame. No brand deals, no books, no stage tours. Just a man in a red robe living in a cave-like home, surrounded by photos of deities and silence. He passed away peacefully, leaving behind one of the strangest and most debated cases in modern medical history. Whether you believe in miracles, biology, or something in between, Prahlad Jani's story forces us to ask what the human body is truly capable of. And maybe, just maybe, we've only scratched the surface. That's about it. Write in the comments what is the strangest thing you have eaten in your life. For more useful information, watch other videos.